Welcome, everybody, to Reframe Influential Conversations for Accountants podcast webinar series, part 7. If you're joining us for the first time, if you go into the slide, there is a link. So you can, I'll also copy and paste that into the chat. That way, if you're live in Zoom, you can get that as well. But you can click on that link and go to the 8-part webinar series that is all being posted into YouTube. So this is part 7 that we're recording now, that we're live recording now. And there's the last 6 episodes in there. And then by the time we finish part 8 next month, and then the bonus in October, which is right before our live conference, they will all be in YouTube and you'll be able to watch all 9. So 8-part series with a bonus. About today's webinar. So these are the topics we're going to cover. So we're going to quickly do an introduction to the webinar series, which I just started, and the Reframe conference in October in Hollywood, Florida, which is what this webinar and podcast series is all about, is to create some excitement and also to promote for people that haven't signed up yet. We're going to talk about the Accounting Reframers Manifesto, previously known as the Alt Accountant Manifesto. We read it every beginning of the podcast. It's really important because this creates the framework as to how we feel the accounting profession needs to be moving forward. Then we're going to talk about Phil Jones, our guest, the author of a book called Exactly What to Say. Carlos will give you a quick Reader's Digest version of a wonderful book that you all need to read and buy. It's just an incredible book. Then we're going to discuss a couple of topics. We'll discuss what all professionals have in common. And the answer is they all have to sell themselves. They got to sell their value, sell their ideas, sell their services. Then we're going to talk about the dichotomy of salesperson versus expert. This is a big challenge that we have as accountants is, I want to be an expert, therefore I don't want to lose the brand of expert by being a salesperson. And we're going to discuss that. And Phil really, really has nailed the way to think about how you can be both. There's no, it's not a black and white choice. Then we're going to talk about what happens when clients say no to us, or they say you're too expensive. How to deal with rejections in general. So Phil's going to talk to us about that. Then we're going to discuss with Phil this really big issue that we have in accounting, and I would probably say most professional services, is that risk, I'm doing that with air quotes, of charging flat fee for services because of out-of-scope situations. We don't know what's going to happen. Therefore, many of us default to time-based or input-based type of billing. So we'll discuss that briefly. Then Carlos will kind of go deep into with Phil about the sales process, the importance of it slowing down. What does slowing down mean exactly? We'll discuss some of the magic words that are in the book. And then we'll end it with, hey, what is the biggest opportunity takeaway for the accounting profession? So that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's start by just doing the very important plug. We are at the home stretch here. We are 2.5 months away from the big conference. So Reframe 2024 in Hollywood, Florida, October 16th to 19th. We're going to explore in depth how to become more influential with our clients, with our team members, with our peers, and with our software providing partners and service providing partners, because God knows that this is what we need. We need to become more influential. Most of us spend way too much time giving suggestions, giving advice, saying you should do this, you should do that, fix this, fix that. And then it seems like nothing happens. And then every year we have the exact same conversation. So we're going to dedicate an entire conference to how to become more influential, how to ask better questions, how to communicate your value, how to get other people to buy into your ideas. The conference is $1,800. We have the last early bird coupon available for $100 off. Just use code 0831. It expires at the end of the month. Go to reframe2024.com, reframe2024.com to sign up. One really important thing, we are staying in a beach resort that is $500 a night. Okay, generally it's $500 a night. And we have negotiated a block rate for under $300. But 30 days before the conference, so we're talking about September 15th, the hotel will no longer honor that rate. So if you are on the fence, it's time to get moving so you can stay on the conference hotel. Now, worst case scenario, after September 15th, you can stay in other hotels nearby, but we want you to have the full experience. We're going to have a party. I'm going to say party in air quotes. We're going to have a welcome reception. We're going to have live music. The conference is a sort of an all-inclusive concept, right? Where we're gonna provide breakfast and lunch, and the beach is right there. So hopefully you go to long walks on the beach. Like, we want you to experience the whole thing. Come down to South Florida, October 16th to 19th, reframe2024.com. And that's it for that. The Accounting Reframers Manifesto. We rebranded this from the Alt Accountant Manifesto. And this is very simple. These are 12 things that you wake up every morning and you say to yourself. You can say it to yourself out loud. You can say it yourself inside your head. It can live in your subconscious. But this is how we will reframe the profession, by us individually having a manifesto that changes our behaviors. So this is the manifesto. 1, we're uniquely positioned to help our target customers that we choose. 2, we're known as experts and an authority in our specialty. 3, we use transformational language and ask better questions. And this is highlighted in pink here in the slides, because this is our area of focus for this particular talk for today. 4, we listen to understand why and what our clients' desired future state is. 5, we price our services at a fraction of the value that we provide. 6, we give our customers choices on how they can work with us or not work with us. 7, we are effective, even if it means being, I'm going to say a bad word, inefficient. 8, we can automate workflows, or we always humanize relationships. So true in the age of AI, of course. 9, we create a firm culture that attracts partner-like talent. 10, we're agents of change through courage, conviction, and compassion. 11, we make hard decisions with confidence. And 12, we will rebrand the profession and save it from itself. And I had a big talk about this on last year's conference, about how the profession is kind of like sort of digging its own hole and not protecting itself with all the other factors that are happening out there. Software companies encroaching in our territory, outsourcing, AI, automation, all these things that we feel that are happening to the profession. And I think the Reframers Manifesto is our first step into that. So with that being said, Carlos, I'll give you control so you can introduce our guest.
So now on to our guest for today. So it is our pleasure to introduce who is going to be one of our headline speakers for Reframe, Phil M. Jones, who is the author of the book, Exactly What to Say, Master of Influence and Persuasion. He's written over 7 books, and the book itself, Exactly What to Say, has sold over 2.7 million copies, has had years and years of experience in training millions of sales professionals and just knowledge workers in professional services across 800 industries, and has a tremendous amount of wisdom and experience in the world of influential conversations. So, Phil, thank you for being here today. How are you?
Yeah, I'm wonderful. Thank you, Carlos. It's a delight to be here. Thanks for inviting me to be part of the show.
Fantastic. So to kick it off, let's kind of talk about a little bit about like what all professional service industries have in common, and in essence, it's really this concept of we have to sell the value of our services and sell ourselves. So as you think about that, what would you like to add or expand on that concept, and why some folks maybe even struggle to accepting this idea that we have to sell ourselves, and how to maybe relook at that word or reframe it?
Well, when you think about professional services as a whole, rarely is it the best professional services provider for the person that is providing the service for that individual at that time. Whether it's accountancy, whether it's legal services, etc., is people find these people typically for one of 2 reasons. They're either finding them through convenience, like who's your friend's friend CPA, that's going to be the person I'm going to work with. And if it's not through convenience, it's often through price. And the reason I know it's through price is when people are looking for new providers, the outbound expression when they're knocking on your door is, how much do you charge for blank? How much do you charge for blank? How much do you charge for blank? And this is because there's just a general lack of understanding as to what the differences are. So if your initial inquiry is how much do you charge, it's because people don't understand how to navigate the differences between somebody like you and the level of service that you provide. So our job really, as well as being excellent service professionals, is to do 2 things really well. One is to interrupt somebody else's day for long enough to help them realize that they probably need you as opposed to the person they're working with right now. And two is when people knock on your door, pick up your phone, ping your email contact request, and ask for your help, that you're an ability to skillfully question and skillfully navigate and then skillfully present the reason why you're worth every dime that you're asking for and some. That's the job. And then table stakes is being really good at what you do. That'll drive reputation, but talking about what you do, both on the outbound expression and responding to inbound, is the difference between those that do good and the ones that really crush it.
Yeah. And I think in the world of accounting, and Hector, you may want to add to this idea that accounting professionals spend a lot of time accumulating technical expertise and knowledge, right? And oftentimes we forget that it's so important to be able to communicate the value of that. And so some of the things that I've ran into, at least in my world of coaching, having the privilege of coaching folks in this space of transitioning some of their mindset and maybe even the business model, is a lot of things. It's like, I don't see myself as a salesperson, or, I don't want to come off as salesy. So what needs to change in that narrative for folks in this space to, again, lean in towards this idea of it's not about selling, it's about serving, it's more about helping?
I think part of the puzzle here is that we have negative connotations around what's deemed to be salesy, right? So if I was to ask everybody here in the chat even to reach for a single word, an adjective that would describe a stereotypical salesperson, I think we're going to get some responses that would be less than desirable. So why not hit me with that? If you're listening to us right now, what would be some words that would describe a stereotypical salesperson? Right, here we are, like we're annoying. We are pushy. We are pushy again. Now we're reaching for really negative words, adjectives that en masse, that if somebody used those words to describe you, you'd feel a little icky. You wouldn't want to necessarily see that about yourself. It certainly wouldn't be the reputation you're looking to be able to provide. What if I simply rephrase the question and ask you to not describe a stereotypical salesperson, but to describe a professional salesperson? What adjectives are you reaching for now? See, now we're going to move away from not listening and arrogant, and we're going to move towards helpful and great listeners and solution partner and insightful and knowledgeable. See, if these words were used to describe you, my guess is you're feeling a little different about yourself. If this is what you saw in yourself and how people went on to be able to grow your reputation, you'd be pretty darn happy that this is what's happening by alternative. So catch something tiny here is, firstly, being a salesperson is not a bad thing. The perception of being a salesperson is a bad thing. We're all in the business of selling something. Sometimes it's a product or service. Sometimes it's an idea, an outcome, or change of behavior. Parents in the room, my guess is that you've sold your kid on the idea of how to behave. Parents in the room, I'm sure that you've sold your child on where they're going to go on Saturday to be able to utilize 8 hours of the day. People in the room, I'm sure you've sold a friend of yours on the restaurant that you would like to be able to go and eat at this coming weekend, or what the itinerary looks like when you go to the ball game. Like, we're all in the business of selling something. The trouble comes when you apply it towards money. We've grown up in a world where we have made heroines out of people in the sales arena for, in my opinion, lots of the very wrong reasons. What we do is we watch movies like Glengarry Glen Ross and say it should be always be closing. And we watch The Wolf of the Wall Street and be like, that's what great sales looks like. And I'm sorry, friends, it's not. If that was to happen in 2024, that would be called stealing. That would be something that would be immoral, potentially even illegal. And in a world where our reputation is everything, you winning and your client not winning is a fast path to failure. However, we still need to be able to articulate our value in the moments that matter. We're all selling something. And in order to be able to get people to see and understand our value more effectively, two things need to happen. One is you need to be able to articulate it. But before you can articulate it, you have to be able to believe it. One of the biggest reasons that I see people underselling themselves is because they don't believe they're worth it. If you're not convinced, you cannot convince. If you're like, oh, my mentor who I acquired the practice from, he used to charge fixed fee, $1,500 a year, and I'm never as good as him because he's older and wiser and more senior than me. Therefore, I always have to charge the same or less because I can't play through that. That belief will stifle your ability to be able to earn. Yet when it comes to asking for money, if you can confidently believe that the money you're asking for is a fraction of the value that you provide for other people, life gets easier. So when people ask me often, like, how much should I charge for blank? My response is often, well, about 10 times, about a tenth of the value that you provide for them. So if you save somebody $1,000, you can charge them 100. If you make somebody 100 grand, you can charge them 10 grand. But that's a good way of being able to think about it, is that you are in the business of creating value for your customers. So if you can save them time, save them money, make them time, make them money, and any combination of those things, and see quite clearly how you do it, you are very entitled to a percentage of that for yourselves.
Bill, yeah, that's great. Thank you. I wanted to specifically address the pushy, salesy, the comments that we got from people when they first contrasted typical salesperson versus professional salesperson. We as accounting professionals, and I'm sure many industries feel like this as well, we feel we are subject matter experts. We took a very long time, tons of schooling, tons of patience, tons of reading to get to the point where we probably have the answer that the client needs. We probably know how to fix the problem that the client has in front of them. We probably know how to prevent problems that the client doesn't even know that they have or they're going to have. So we have just high level of confidence in our skills as an expert. And we believe that our expertise is enough to influence. But the minute any sort of like, here's a sales technique, here's a sales process, here's how to word or frame your services, our brain goes through to this concept that we're manipulating. Like we're kind of stepping away from our soul of being an expert and entering somebody else's soul, the salesperson's soul. And we're shifting from a position of influence, of manipulation. How do you help us kind of bridge that gap?
Well, let's even just play it in the like I'm speaking to only a room full of accountants. And Hector, do you manipulate the tax codes?
No, we don't.
Right? What you do is you look to be able to create as much influence as possible for your client, utilizing the playbook and the rule book that is mapped out for you to say, I'm going to deeply understand how to categorize, how to organize, and how to make the most of the playbook that is being presented while staying within the constraints of what's possible, right? Like that's what you're looking to be able to do. You're saying, I understand my field of play and I'm going to play to win. Same is true in a sales environment. Is what you're looking at is to say, I'm understanding my field of play. And that field of play is the outcomes that your customer is looking to achieve. I love that what we've been looking to be able to do is to say we are subject matter experts, but subject matter experts is inwardly facing. What it's saying is, look at me, I'm awesome, I'm a badass. And you owe me high fees because I studied hard, because I've been to school, because I've been this a long time. When we look at the next decade we're stepping into, the subject matter we require expertise on is the person we're looking to help. Because knowledge is going to become cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. Access to information and quote unquote expertise is going to become cheaper and easier to access as the years we step into. The part that is highly appropriate and where your value really appreciates is your unique knowledge of that other person's circumstances, your unique knowledge of what that person is looking to try and achieve. Like, how can you offer tax advice to somebody without having an understanding of what type of life they'd like to live over the next 20, 30 years? About understanding the other stakeholders and what their long-term investment strategies are, about understanding who the other people are that are affected by their life, etc. So subject matter expertise is going to become table stakes. Emotional and physical intelligence about the humans you're supporting is going to be the differentiator. So it's not information that's valuable, it's application of information to unique sets of circumstances. And that's where significant high value could come. Look at it this way, right? You could be a mindset coach where you're responsible for helping to improve the mindset of others. And if you're a mindset coach for 6-year-olds to help them find the confidence to be able to step out onto the playground to try tennis because they don't think they're very good at tennis, you're not going to get paid very well. But if you're a mindset coach for professional athletes at Wimbledon to help them be able to go home with a trophy, you're going to be rewarded at a significantly higher value. The knowledge base could be the same. The application of the knowledge is where the value is appreciated.
That's brilliant. Perfect. Thank you for that. The big light bulb moment for me is we don't manipulate the tax code. We leverage it. We maximize it. We take it to the very edges. We look for the loopholes. And you're saying within a conversation where you're communicating your value, what you can do, asking questions about their business, you're not manipulating that, or you are taking it to the edge and maximizing and finding the loophole. So communication itself could be seen as non-manipulative. Like you said, if you know what the rules are, what are the rules of engagement? How do people understand each other? How do people communicate with each other? How do people temporarily trust the next person to tell them the truth, and then they trust back the next person to respond the reaction to that truth? That's the dialogue, right? That back and forth.
And how many people have undercharged for their services so that they don't get taken seriously enough by the consumer, and then that client of yours didn't do the thing they were supposed to do that would have resulted in them? And I'll give a clear example on this, even in my world, right? Is go back 7-8 years. I had a low-priced CPA when I set up my business coming towards the United States from the UK, just somebody to do company formation, basic set of accounts. And every year he said, well, you should probably do some form of like 401k, something to be able to bring down your tax planning. I said, sure, I should get round to that. Fast forward 6 years, never took action from it, and have cost myself over that time window a significant amount of money from not following a very simple strategy because the low paid accountant didn't make it important enough for me to be able to understand how important that strategy was. That's something that was operated for 6 years of my existence as a business owner, of not executing a basic strategy that would have allowed my company to make investments as opposed to my personal to make investments. So on paper, I misplaced taxes. You with me? Because the person didn't make it important enough to me because they were playing too low, and their viewpoint was I gave the advice, but I didn't sell the advice.
So what you're saying is that sometimes being, quote, pushy, right? And obviously that word has all sort of negative connotations, but insisting on what you truly believe on is the right thing for the customer, right? It's part of our job. That's our role.
And packaging the conversation around that, particularly if there's sweat equity or external vendors or other steps that the client has to take in order to be able to extract their value, if you're going to lead that relationship, then you could be worth more. Whereas if all you're going to do is to complete what they tell you on a tax return and ship it to the IRS, well, you're worth less. So it isn't just having the knowledge, it's implementing the knowledge through the relationship of where your value gets to be appreciated. How many times have you said to a client in the past, well, I told you to do that. If you can take responsibility for them not doing it and actually realize that maybe it's your languaging around it that made them not do it, you can help them be able to do more. I use the gym coaching analogy, right? We all know we're supposed to eat better and work out more often. Yet most of us will still only achieve any physical results we're looking for by having somebody that is accountability training us and supporting that journey with us to help us to achieve those goals. Same is true with any financial professionals. If you think your knowledge is applicable, look at how everybody has all the knowledge they need to have the body of their dreams, but doesn't.
And Phil, can I also add to that analogy is that if someone stays with us holding us accountable enough and empowers us to do it for ourselves,
that's it.
Then we will change, right?
It feels like a team as well, right? We want to feel like a team on this and that's, I feel like so many professional services and attorneys are the world's best at this as well. Like they just hold all the knowledge and like, ask me and I'll tell you. Whereas modern professionals are, let me ask you so I can apply my knowledge to your unique circumstances so that you can get an appreciating value. I do a huge amount of work inside the real estate space, and there's a lot of talk right now about like how do agents articulate their value towards their consumers. And something that I shared in front of a big stage recently was that your value is only valuable where it is both appreciated and appreciating. Now, I think the same is true for accounting professionals. Your value is only valuable where it is both appreciated and appreciating. And I think that appreciating piece is something that you folks will get more than most. Like the advice that you give somebody for their 2024 accounts could deliver them value in the moment. But if that advice is sold and structured and packaged correctly over a period of time, it's more valuable year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, year 6, past that point, which means it compounds. Now, if you can show people how your value appreciates over a period of time, well, guess what? You might pay more for it.
You know, Phil, this reminds me of the first time that I truly wasn't prepared for a conversation of this type. I had a client, but first of all, over time, I've been dealing with this client for like 6 or 7 years. And we've been training their QuickBooks with bank feeds, with rules, adding all the vendors and the payees and having the history of transactions that were used in the past. And naturally, as time goes by, the work, it just becomes quicker. Like for us to do the books today takes us 1 hour, where 6 years ago, it took us 10 hours. And the customers somehow started realizing this, and they came to us and said, hey, now that the books are, clean, now that the bank rules are organized, now that we have a system in place and you know us and we have a workflow, shouldn't our services go down in price rather than go up in price that they've been doing, because it's easier for you? And this happened to me about 7-8 years ago. I wasn't really prepared to have value pricing conversations. And this is the first time I truly got stumped. I feel a little bit more better equipped to answer that now. But like, what's your version of that answer when somebody will come to you with something like that?
Well, firstly, I'd say is would you like us spending time on administration or consultation? And I think most people would say, well, what's the difference? And you say, well, historically, much of our time has been spent on running administrative tasks so we can be compliant. Now that we have access to tools and technology that can provide leverage around those administrative tasks, we can look at unique application of tax code to your unique circumstances, your applications, and your goals. And for the same money, we can now achieve more for you. Do you want us to go back to the old way, or do you appreciate the new way?
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. No, nothing else on that. I think I love it. Want us to go back to the old way or stick with the new one? Yeah.
Right. And I'm looking at some things here in the chat as well. And like Michelle's saying, but how do you handle, we can't care more than what the client does? But you can care more about how much of what you care about is appreciated by the client. The client has to care, but you can take steps to help them care more. Has this ever happened in your life? Like something you've shown little care to, you had a pattern interrupt with a friend of yours, or maybe even in your relationship. I'll give you a simple example in my world. It's like, I live in a house full of women. In my life, I don't care much about whether the toilet seat is up or down. Doesn't affect me a great deal as a man in the household, but it does affect my kids when they get up in the middle of the night and I left the toilet seat up, right? That is a problem that they care about. Meaningful conversation with my wife and kiddos is like, hey, like this is causing us a challenge. Oh, I now care more about that problem than I'd ever cared about it before because it's been brought to my attention. You cannot care more than your client, but you can help your client care more. And I think that's part of where your value comes across, is to help them care about the things they are often naively or ignorantly not caring about because they're not aware of the full consequences. They don't have an understanding of just how impactful it could be. Like take, for example, the retirement planning pension thing that I ignorantly was like, I don't believe in pensions because I have real estate holdings in the UK and I don't want the money to pay me when I'm 65 because I'm going to retire more than that. So I just sideswiped ignorantly investing into retirement plans that could have saved me loads in taxes because I was ignorant. And what happened was my CPA took that on face value. I didn't care because I didn't know I should care. I didn't know what caring looked like. That was a messaging problem. And that messaging problem cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And Phil, I know that you're going to talk about this in your keynote in October a lot about the fundamentals of effective conversations, which is sometimes it's not always exactly what to say to shift perspective, but it's exactly what to ask. Yeah. And being able to identify that moment to ask that courageous question. And I'll tell you, one of the most courageous questions that's ever been asked of me by people that I look up to, or coaches or advisors or people of subject matter expertise, is what's stopping you from making that change, or something like that, where all of a sudden it was like a self-reflection moment where it's like a Taylor Swift moment. It's me. I'm the problem. It's me. And we need to have more of those Taylor Swift moments for clients to self-realize that maybe they're the problem, but we're not telling them they're the problem, right? We're just asking them and leading them to that self-discovery. And that's the power of influence.
Correct. And helping them realize that your advice is for their purpose. There's a phrase that I share often, which is that you should never, ever, 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 ever tell anybody to do anything unless you can say these words first. And the words you should look to better say first are the words because of the fact that you said. Because of the fact that you said blank, blank, and blank, then for those reasons, I'd recommend blank, blank, and blank. So you could sit there and try and sell somebody on your interim CFO services or your part-time CFO services, and you can give them the list of bullets and all the wonderful things that you provide and tell us how much little extra it is for your services. So you could say, well, look, because of the fact that you said you're looking for some external proactive information that's reviewing your numbers, helping you to systemize and automate what you have for age receivables, so that what you can do is improve your cash flow position and get ahead of the way that you account your books moving forward. For those reasons, it may be beneficial that we work together a little more collaboratively, and that you get somebody with my caliber of experience part-time inside your business rather than you needing to hire a full-time CFO. They're like, well, what would that look like? And you're like, well, being as you asked. And now you can talk to them about it. But it has to be because of the fact that you said you wanted blank. And this is the emotional intelligence part that's missing from most sales conversations. People have taught sales like it's features and benefits, or like, why don't I show up and throw up and package the best version of brilliance that I can have? But actually, great sales professionals are like great doctors. And they know that prescription before diagnosis is malpractice. So we need to be aligning our service offerings with the unique set of circumstances that exist inside of our clients. And the more that you can show your clients that you understand who they are and what's important to them, the easier it is for them to be able to reward you with high fees. And I think one of the big reasons that we don't get the fees that you'd like to is because you're too general. If people are asking, can you help with blank? You're too general. They want to be saying, I understand you help people with blank. And here's the decision-making process that anybody goes through when they're looking to purchase anything high ticket, particularly a high ticket service provider, is, have you done this before? Have you done it recently? And have you done it for someone like me? If you can prove yes, 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 it's easier to command higher fees.
Right. And that's where the whole conversation of specialization comes into play. Phil, I just wanted to add something really quick. You can add to this or not, but there was a couple comments about what happens when you're promising all this value. You're saying what you're gonna do. Everything is sort of like future directed, right? Because like you said, with realtors, you really don't know the value of hiring that realtor until after you closed on that house, right? So there's the promise of, I'm going to treat you so well, the house is going to sell so well, this and that. And then there's the 2-3 month process of all the trials and tribulations that goes to the transaction. So no one can ever give someone a preview of the future and say, hey, this is guaranteed to work or not guaranteed to work. So my answer to the people that are asking, what if your customer doesn't believe you, or how do you prove that you are going to provide the value, or what if the customer thinks you're lying, or whatever it is? There's a simple solution to that, and it's provide a guarantee, and it's so easy. All you have to say is, if I don't deliver on the value I promise, you will get a refund, no questions asked. That's a simple solution to that. And yes, is it risky? Yes, but that's where profits come from. They come from risk. Okay. Why is Walmart the way they are? They'll sell anything to anyone. You go in there and you have zero reservations about buying anything at Walmart because you always know that you can always return it. And accountants, we safeguard our profits so much that we don't start with that guarantee up front. Do you have any thoughts about that, about guaranteeing your work?
What are you guaranteeing though, Hector? Like, there's the question is I think sometimes we can trip ourselves up with big guarantees. What are you guaranteeing?
Well, this is why the value conversation is very important. You need to understand what their desired future state is. Yeah. You need to ask big questions like, hey, if we were hanging out in Starbucks 3 years from now and we were laughing and high-fiving about what we did the last 3 years and why we were so successful, what will have to have happened for us to have that conversation? And your client will paint you their desired future state. And they're going to say, well, I hired 3 new employees. My sales expanded. I now go home at 5 and not at 9 p.m. So sometimes they're measurable things, like things that go on the P&L. And sometimes there's soft things like less stress or sleep at night. So the reality is that sometimes you can guarantee a number. You can say, hey, I can reduce your expenses by 20%, and that could be tied to a P&L. Or sometimes what you guarantee is, quote, peace of mind. In either case, one can be measured with the P&L and one has to be measured by the client. And the client can come back to you and say, hiring you did not give me a peace of mind. And you know what? If they ask you for a refund, this is the best thing for you to do. Refund it and move on. Because your client will never lie to you about that. Because no service provider ever gives anybody pieces of mind. No one will ever, for a quick buck, say you didn't give me a peace of mind when they did. So the point is, you guarantee satisfaction. That's simple. You guarantee transformation. You guarantee feeling better.
Guarantee satisfaction, and you can have a no quibble pricing strategy as well. I know that you have a lot of advocacy towards like monthly pricing and annual pricing and value-based pricing, etc. That is part of how people are encouraged, which I think is fantastic. But one of the ways that you can show a guarantee also is by mitigating risk with payments. So a monthly payment plan with a never-ending journey, and saying if at any point you're less than satisfied with the service that you can provide for us, give us 30 days notice, you can go somewhere else, and here's our offboarding process for how we prepare you for your next CPA. Right? And this is what we package and move on for you. There are 3 things that sit in a value proposition that make it easier for you to articulate your value. One is money. Like, can you save or make people more money? If it's not money, it's time. What are you doing to save people time or make people more time? And if it's not money or time, it's a risk. What are you doing to de-escalate risk? And I think from a CPA's point of view is the de-escalation of risk is something you can have strong guarantees around. You have strong guarantees to say that you'll never miss a deadline, that you'll proactively manage their reporting processes and their filing deadlines and those things, right? Lots of very clear, you either did it or you didn't do it. There's no subjectiveness to this, is that I am going to be proactive in the compliance part of the CPA piece. Lots of guarantees can be put around that. I'm going to be compliant on the operational systems that are going to save you back time. So there's less for you to worry about, that if that time was spent elsewhere, that would be more valuable in your business. Because I think that's something that many people miss in packaging. Like, if you can give me back 8 hours of my life over a 12-month period of time for something I don't have to worry about, that has a value that has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with how much my time is worth. Which is why sometimes that if you want to get paid more, just go solve the same problem you're saving right now for somebody who values their time more. Go solve a more expensive problem.
Phil, I just had an aha moment. I want to compliment you on this because I've read your book. I went to your certification program. Carlos tells me about exactly what to say stuff every single day of my life. Okay. So you would say generally I'm a deep enthusiast into this work. But the big aha moment I just had is that there are things that we can measure. And there are things that are nearly impossible to measure because they're subjective, such as peace of mind is the biggest word that it just means anything. But if we kind of slow down the sales process, and Carlos, maybe you can go deeper into that, because slowing down the sales process is the thing that you've been teaching me for years. And we ask the client, if I can pay your taxes in time, if there's no surprises at the end of the tax season on your tax bill, if we deliver a P&L by the 15th of each month, if we have a deep conversation about what the P&L balance sheet and budget versus actual looks like every month, if your CFO feels very comfortable asking me a question, not asking you a question, and we basically offloaded all that stress about big money decisions, if will that give you peace of mind? And if the client says yes, then it's no longer a subjective. It is still it's still subjective, but we can still leverage what we can measure. So like that's
we know the judging criteria for the peace of mind competition.
Correct. It's established at the very beginning, before we even go into pricing and what we're going to do for you. We're going to say, you want peace of mind? Okay, tell me how I measure my performance as a peace of mind creator. That way, I know that I'm on the right track. I don't have to call you at 3 a.m. and say, hey, are you sleeping or are you awake? Right? Thank you for that, by the way.
You can even ask questions inside that conversation, like, what kind of difference would it make if your team could contact me for those questions as opposed to contact you? How would you feel if you knew that you had somebody else that was watching all of the compliance dates and proactively driving the decision-making ahead of those compliance dates, so there were no more panic-based decisions, and that you had the time to proactively review the information, that you didn't need to file anything in a pinch? How would you feel if that was true? Be like, man, that would be amazing. What kind of difference would it make if you could be proactive around the decision-making around 2025, 26, 27 account structures today, so you weren't trying to retroactively file and make adjustments? Right? What we've got here is we've got a body of work that says, oh, this dude knows what it's like to be me, and they're removing stressors. And I look at it like I've hired a couple of house managers inside my life, right? Where they're responsible not just for being a cleaner, but they manage things around the house for us as well. And the ones we get through quickly are highly competent, highly skilled, have the ability to do lots of different things, but have no intuition. They'll do anything I ask them to do. But that still means that I got to ask them to do it. They've got lots of advice about how things could be done better when I advise them to do it, but they're not doing anything proactively. The best people I've ever had in this role are being like, hey, Phil, I thought about blank, and I know that you don't have a protocol in place to be able to do blank. Here's the protocol I use. Would you be happy for me to run with that? And I'm like, you go get it. Because I didn't have to think about it. What they did is they said, hey, here's a potential red flag. I got it in hand. I got a solution for it. If you've got a better solution, tell me. But if not, I'm going to run with it this way. You good with that? And there's no different from a CPA's point of view, right? I'd love it. Instead, too often you're in conversations with somebody being like, hey, we're ready to file, and here's what you should have done. You're like, thanks for the here's what you should have done list. Appreciate it. I'm paying you for this.
So, Phil, I know we're going to dive into maybe some examples of the magic words. We're really just talking about these ideas and these concepts, which are brilliant. And I feel like in this space, but maybe just business in general, but specifically in the accounting, tax, bookkeeping space, there are more small business owners and individuals that need an accountant than there are accountants to be able to serve. That's the fact, right? Like it's an staffed role. So because of that, accountants tend to kind of be overwhelmed, and there's a lot of work, there's a lot of urgency. Speed is a very sensitive thing. And because of that, they try to operate in the mode of fast. But you introduced this idea of slowing down.
Yeah.
And could you share a little bit about what are the benefits to slowing down, especially when it comes to conversations?
Well, let's look at what happens if you don't. Ever found yourself in a dispute conversation where there's been something that you and a loved one see from a different point of view? And in order to try and resolve this situation, that you see things from a different point of view, you get louder, you get faster, you get more aggressive in your tone towards the other person, with the goal of being able to get them to see things from your point of view. And then they do the same back in the other direction. How often does that work out?
Never.
Same as when you're trying to be able to get ready for a trip and you're rushing. When you're rushing to get ready for a trip, what do you end up doing?
You miss out something.
You forget something. You often forget something important. It often costs you more time in the long run than it would have done to just methodically go through that process. And in the Marines, I've had the joy of being able to spend some time training is in the Marines, they have a saying that slow is smooth and smooth is fast. That's the mantra that they have when they step into a hostile environment. So if it's good enough for a hostile environment, it's probably good enough for us in any of our days is you slow the process down, you speed the outcome up. Why? Because you can now be symbiotic. You can now be organized. You can now be collective. I find it fascinating, the mad flurry that everybody has in the month of April trying to get ready for tax season. There shouldn't be tax season. There should just be a never-ending conversation around the financial structures of an organization so that people are giving consideration to the fact that they've got tax consequences. It shouldn't be a sprint finish at any given point. So we become overloaded because of the systems and processes that happen internally inside our organization. If I was to say, like, have a mantra about how to run a more effective practice, it's no surprises. If you can say, like, how do we run a practice where there's no surprises, internal or external? No surprises at all. That's the bar you set. No surprises. Then chances are, then you'll have no surprises. And you'll be able to do better work.
And it shows up really, really well in those critical conversations, right? What we talk about, critical conversations are these high stakes moments where our emotions are really high. The client is asking you, why are you so expensive? Or what's your price? And usually it's money, right? The money psychology, like we just get all nervous. I've had people that I've coached that say, well, a client asked me for a price and then I say 500, but then I get nervous and I just say, well, but I can do it for 400. They're like negotiating against themselves because they're speeding up. They're getting nervous. And that's the moment where we slow it down. And if only we knew a few magic words, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of what we want to share a little bit.
That, but, you know, and Julie puts a note here in the chat as well, like it's not possible with the IRS tax changes. And well, it is, because we can help you and every one of your clients realize that what often happens is that the IRS make last minute tax changes. So that when you say, hey, there's been a last minute tax change, client says, oh, my CPA told me that there are often last minute tax changes. This is not a surprise. Because you knew it was coming. And therefore, if it doesn't come, it's like, hey, good news, no surprises this year. But tell people there might be surprises, and then there are no surprises. Like, you go into a haunted house, you're not surprised when a ghostly ghoul comes up in front of your face and shocks you and all. You're like, oh, I'm in a haunted house. That was supposed to happen. Whereas if you weren't in a haunted house and that same thing just appeared in your vision, you'd be like, what the, right? You'd be a little differently scared in that environment than if there wasn't forewarning. So we cannot control everything, but we can control a lot more than we're controlling right now. And one of the big things you can control is expectations. The only thing you have to do to win is exceed expectations. One of the big reasons people struggle to exceed expectations is because they didn't set clear expectations in the first place. Not because they don't do great work, because they didn't set clear expectations.
Bill, that's awesome. By the way, I love that. So we are recommending everyone to get your book, Exactly What to Say. Yeah. That's the name of it. You can find it on Amazon. Check out your YouTube channel, also called Exactly What to Say, that recently started. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I know it's not easy to start a YouTube channel, but I can tell you 10 years later, it was totally worth it. I want you to give us a preview of your book, and we're going to grab one of the magic words, or it's actually a combination of words.
Yeah.
But within the context of, for example, we are learning new skills and we're learning how to offer more high value advisory service to our clients. Our clients are already used to $500 a month for only bookkeeping, and we're having a conversation and we're trying to sell them, this higher level advisory service. Within the context of this magic word, I'm not sure if this is for you, but how would you apply it in this particular situation? Or maybe even give us a background on why these are magic words.
Sure. We could do a ton of background on it, but if this is a collection of series of words that talk straight towards the subconscious brain. And I'm speaking to CPAs, so you understand math. And you can also do math with words. Things either add, subtract, multiply, or divide towards the outcome that you're looking for. The words I'm not sure if it's for you, but are a rejection-free opener. Like if I'm going to say the words I'm not sure if it's for you, your little voice will do two things. Firstly, it will do the, well, I'll be the judge of that. It takes responsibility, so it creates movement in the conversation. It says a decision needs to be made. Damn, I hate these Zoom features right now, right? Aren't they terrible? It'll worth figuring out how to turn that crap off. The second thing it does is curiosity is fueled. And it makes somebody want to lean in. They're like, what is it? What the word but does is it then shifts the focus to next. It has somebody giving consideration to what is it that you're talking about. So when you say to somebody, I'm not sure if it's for you, but they go through a real emotional journey of like, well, I'll be the judge of that. What is it? Can't stop looking at it. How do you utilize that when trying to get existing clients to give consideration to other services? Well, I'd probably put another sequences of words ahead of time. And I'd use another rejection-free opening formula first, which is the fact that the whole world likes to see themselves as open-minded. And I'd get a conditional buy-in to something effortless at the front end. Is like, how open-minded would you be to finding some ways that we can work a little closer together so that we can make an even bigger impact in your organization? Who's going to say no for that? Nobody. Nobody, unless they hate you and they're about to leave. But chances are that's not any of you on this call. And they're going to be like, yeah, I'm up for it. What are you got in mind? Well, you'd say, well, I'm not sure if it's for you, but many of our other aspirational clients, high growth clients, big vision clients, see some form of specifying adjective at the front that is a compliment. I'm not sure if it's for you, but many of our fast growth clients in sectors like yours are seeing huge success with an advisory service that we've just released that delivers them more profit and saves them more time. What are they now going to say? Tell me some more about that. When they say, tell me some more about that, you go backwards. So before I share with you some of the details about the offering is help me understand this is how often, how many times, how typical, like we're going historic, for them to tell us how much time they burn on things, how hard it is for them to not, like giving them the ability to dig their own hole. After you've had that past-based conversation, you say, so where are you at right now? Like what impact is this having on your day-to-day today? And they're like, well, to be fair, we just know we miss things, we ignore things, we're not really having our eye on all of the numbers we can. You're like, well, okay. So what kind of difference would it make if you had somebody that did boom, ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom? They're like, that would be amazing. You're like, well, that's why we created the advisory service. You're probably wondering what the expense is attached towards that. Well, the good news is a service of this nature on a business of your size, I think it's going to put us into a situation where we're going to save tens of thousands of dollars a year and have more foresight towards some of the growth potential that could make you hundreds of thousands a year. And we only have space for 12 more members on the advisory program at this moment in time. But if you were to look to take one, your out-of-pocket investment would be as little as $1,500 a month. Did you want to take one of the spots, or shall I talk to somebody else about it? But you do you.
It's just like, let's get everyone to record that thing, everyone, and just say the same exact thing. How does that sound? Right. But that takes practice and repetition and intentionality and being able to, know what to say before the conversation happens. But what tends to happen is we just show up. And since we think we've done this 200 times before, the same exact situations happen. And yet we haven't really crafted ourselves or polished ourselves to know how to slow down, really think through what could we ask, where we could position those precise language so that we could be more influential. And it's brilliant. Thank you, Phil.
And I hope what people are understanding even from this conversation, right? We're limited on time today. This is a practice, right? You didn't go on a short course and learn how to be a CPA. You put like effort and energy into being able to build your practice out there. The same is true on word choices. Don't look for the witty one-liners. Don't look for the cute ideas. Decide that the difference from like here to here, where you want to go in your organization, is developing a skill set and a competency around language. And that's why I'm super excited that you've invited me to come and join the Reframe conference and the Carlos, you and I get to work together closer in that too, in the prep for it. And then we've got this whole through line for what is 3-4 days about leveling up the conversations so you can have a better practice on word tracks that's going to allow you to have a better practice overall for the size of business that you're looking to have. So I'm pumped for it.
Amazing. So this whole time, we've had our amazing visual sketch note artist, Alejo. Hopefully, I don't know, Alejo, if you have a preview for us, or do you want to share it later? What do we got?
Awesome. There you go. It's so cool, man. By the way, it's incredible how you're able to do this in real time. And I want to let everybody know that basically Alejo is a sketch artist. He's taking notes. He's also learning. I'm sure, Alejo, you took a lot of stuff. And we're gonna prep this document into like a PDF, and we're gonna share with everybody that was on the call, so you get a little let's call it memento of today's webinar. So incredible work, Alejo. I mean, my hats off.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys for having me.
Alrighty. So Alejo, thank you, man. I appreciate it one more time. Okay. So let's just close this up because it's top of the hour and people like when the stuff ends in top of the hour. Carlos and I will stay a little bit longer if anybody want to just do open Q&A. I think Phil needs to go, but Carlos and I will be hanging out for a little bit. Alejo, you're welcome to hang out as well. So once again, Phil, thank you so much. You kicked butt as we knew you were going to. I think that this exactly what the SAFE movement is going to take over the accounting industry. I think once accountants get it, we are going to make out of it a whole new thing. I just know it, that we're going to build a brand new baby out of this. And we're very excited to have you come in October and go deeper and deeper into this. And Carlos, obviously, thank you for insisting that Reframe 2 is all about this stuff. So once again, if you haven't signed up yet, reframe2024.com, coupon code 0831 expires on August 31st. That's the last early bird coupon code that's available. After August, we will sell it at full price, and we will probably be focusing on more of the locals. We have like 80% of people that are coming are actually traveling. So if you are not in South Florida and you're traveling, make sure you book early so you can get your hotel, try to get the plane tickets at the most decent price as possible. It's a beach resort. It's South Florida. We'll have live music. We'll have Phil Jones. We have Carlos. We have Hector. We have Carolyn, who was in this webinar in an earlier episode. We have Kevin Boyle, who was in the webinar in an earlier episode. We have Chris Doe, who we're going to interview for next month. We have Ed Kless, who we're going to interview in our bonus episode in October, which is our prep webinar for the show. Thank you, everybody, and we'll officially end the recording and the webcast, and we'll leave it open to anyone that wants to ask any questions.
I wanted just to address a comment that was made like 3 minutes before the end. And again, this is just about looking at it from a different perspective. It's not calling anyone out, but oftentimes people can feel like these talk tracks and this language can feel like it's a tactic. It's not a tactic. These are words. This is about choosing the right words to be effective and influential. The difference between influence and manipulation is integrity. If we are showing up intentional, wanting to serve the end client, why wouldn't we want to be intentional about the words that we use when we're asking them questions and presenting solutions so that we can lead them to make better decisions that ultimately serves the greater good? And what this really is just all about helping us refine our word choices when we're trying to influence conversations with integrity. So I just want to address that because I get it. Sometimes it does feel like this can be tacticky, but that's depending on what your intention is. If your intention is you want to manipulate someone, then sure, I agree with that. It's definitely 100% a tactic. And I had this ethical, conversation with Phil about like, what happens when people, use this for the wrong reasons? Well, obviously that's not the intention, right? The intention is for us to help others, lead them to make better decisions. We do that by staying curious. And one of the main things that Phil shares with us in the exactly what to say methodology is that curiosity is the fuel to great conversation. So if we approach every conversation, staying more curious, not only with the clients and their situation and the context, in the spirit of serving them. We can ask these questions in the spirit of being curious to get in the context of their situation, then we can better serve them. And these are just toolkits. And these are just, these words are the tools that you use to stay curious longer, to gain better context, to better serve our customers. So I believe if we do it in the spirit of that, I think we're going to feel good about how we want to help our customers achieve their goals, and we still serve ourselves in wanting to achieve our mission and wanting to help others. So I just kind of wanted to address that because, again, it could be a valid point of view, but if we look at it from the perspective of being in service, then this is absolutely beneficial to all.
We have a question or comment from Tanya, who raised her hand.
Yes.
Go ahead, Tanya.
Hi, everyone. Yes, and I wanted to piggyback on that, Carlos. I think, you mentioned this is a tool. And I mean, I've taken quite a few classes or, webinars with you regarding this tool. And I want to share that it has not only improved the way I speak to my clients, but also the way I speak to my kids, my team. And again, it's not to become manipulative, but it just helps me share the message with other people, even with people that I find at the store or just anyone. So it's not just so that we can make more sales, but also to communicate better with just the world, or ask better questions, without coming across as pushy or salesy. So in my case, I has improved a lot the communication with my kids because I'm asking better questions.
Yeah, I mean, you've transformed a lot of the relationships in your firm, Tanya, and you're exactly what they say, certified, because you're one of our REFRAME community members. And I mean, it's just so incredible to hear the examples of the success stories. And you still have the beautiful heart that you have, right? You still come from a place of curiosity, and your customers accept you as you are, right? You are being your authentic self. And that's what it is how do you make it authentic to you, right? And one of the biggest things that I think also when we're looking at some of these word choices, when we're talking to our customers, is whose voice do we hear when we're saying that? Is it our judge? Is it our inner judge? Have we heard this phrase being said from a place of judgment, or is it from a place of curiosity? So let's break down the word. I'm not sure if it's for you. If we enhance tonality, if we just focus on the tonality, we say, I'm not sure if it's for you, but how does that make you, think that that's coming from? From what place? Probably from a place of arrogance, right? Or I'm not sure if this is for you. What if we just emphasize on this? I'm not sure if this is for you. Okay, so tonality has everything to do with communicating your intention. But if your intention is coming from a place of curiosity, maybe you could say, hey, I'm not sure if this is for you, but, and then the way the message gets received is totally different, right? And so what I also share with some of you is always come from a place of curiosity when you're asking these. Be genuinely curious, like a kid. If you have kids, how curious are they when they see something, they open a door, they see something, they touch it, they want to see how it works, because they're not judging, right? They're not using past situations that were traumatic or were negative experience that create negative emotions. And oftentimes we tend to bring on that baggage, and it's not fair to that future client to bring on our past baggage from negative experiences. So that's where our judgments get in the way of our curiosity. So we could just stay curious a little bit longer with the intention of using this language. You combine those two things, and for everyone, I would say you're going to just see a transformation in the way you approach conversations.
Yes.
Carlos, we have another. Carlos. Thank you, Tanya, by the way. Carlos, we have a question here, and then maybe I'll address this a little bit. Raisa's asking, how do you use this phrase as a bookkeeper where it's hard to upsell? Okay, so I think there's a lot of stuff loaded in this question. So the question is, how do you use this phrase as a bookkeeper where it's hard to upsell. So I would say the first potential challenge here is that I think Raisa says as a bookkeeper, sort of limiting what a bookkeeper is or can be, or how the clients are going to see what bookkeepers are or can be. So I think maybe that's the first challenge, Raisa, is instead of you saying as a bookkeeper, sort of like limiting what your capacity is. Bookkeeping is is a technical expertise that you learn to do so you can serve your clients, right? This is the technical skill that you learn to do so you can serve your clients. It's also your foot in the door because you know that's the most fundamental thing that they need. But in reality, no one really needs bookkeeping. What do people need? People need to make better decisions. But bookkeeping is a precursor to better decisions. Now, do people really need to make better decisions, or what they're really looking to is to be more profitable, grow their business, have more time for themselves? Okay. However, bookkeeping was a precursor to making better decisions, which is a precursor to having more profitability and more time for themselves. And do people really want more profitability and more time for themselves? You know what they want? They want to leave a legacy. They want to leave a legacy. They want to give their kids, they want to give their grandkids a better life that they had. But in order to leave a legacy, the precursor to that was having a profitable business and more time for themselves so they can invest back into the business. The precursor to that was better decisions with financial statements. The precursor to that was doing bookkeeping. So if you choose to put yourself in a box that the only thing that you're there to do is just do the bookkeeping, and you're not really truly there to go crossing to better decisions, to profitability, to helping people leave a legacy, then obviously you're stuck asking the question like that. So you're asking, how would I use, I don't know this for you, but I'm just a bookkeeper and it's really hard to upsell. I would say it like this. Hey, I'm not sure if this is for you, but I have another client that for the last 3 years, we were able to double the profitability simply by cutting an expense here, simply by not outsourcing this particular piece, simply by refocusing their efforts in going out there and selling their services instead of spending 4 hours a week, battling with a spreadsheet or paperwork. We do have this plus level of service that includes 1, 2, 3, and 4. And based on the conversations that you and I had, because of the fact that you told me you want to leave a legacy for your kids, I think that we can actually we can implement this plan. And if you follow the advice that we give you, and then we follow the piece that we said we're going to do, I think you're going to get there. So I'm not sure this is for you, but I found other clients having success here. Would you like to set up a call to discuss how that will work? Or would you like to, set up a workshop, a diagnostic session to see exactly what is the particular area in your business that we're going to tackle? So hopefully that made sense. Raisa, I think it's 50% of the answer is you can't think of yourself as just a bookkeeper. Things are hard to upsell. And also, hey, you have to kind of tell the client, I've done this before. It's been successful. Other people have loved it. And I'm not sure if this is for you, but if you want to love it too, I can show you how to get there.
Yeah, I think part of it is communicating the what's in it for them, right? Like oftentimes we think that the right way to sell something is just to talk about why it's better for you, the practitioner. We need to be able to convey why it's better for them, like what ROI with it. And Hector, you just perfectly looked at the examples of because of the fact that you said and the truth is that if it's hard to upsell, then and my challenge to you, Raisa, or others who may think this way or may be challenged with this is, are you being curious enough? Are you asking enough questions? Are you truly understanding the client's context of their situation, what their true needs are? If all they came to you is, I need bookkeeping services, how many transactions do you do per month? 100 transactions. Great, that'll be $250 a month. Did you gain enough context to really understand why they need bookkeeping? What has been your experience in working with a bookkeeping professional like myself in the past? Oh, I've never done bookkeeping before. Well, just out of curiosity, what do you know about the importance of having your books clean? You know, why would you like to have your books in order? Well, because it helps me understand where I'm at so that I can make better decisions. And what impact would that have to your business if you can make the right decisions? Well, it can help me understand if I could, you know, hire more people, or maybe my profitability, and maybe look at cheaper product, you know, or whatever, right? And what impact would that have to your business? Well, it'll help you make more money. Okay. Well, because of the fact that you said that you value this and this and this and that, and it sounds like this might be a good solution for you. See, if you stay curious long enough, and instead of just going for those quick, oh, okay, 100 transactions, here's how it's going to be, you might understand the deeper motivation, the deeper understanding, the longer term goal. And then we use that knowledge and those facts that the customers share with us, their reasons, because people do things for their reasons, not yours. And the better you understand their reasons, the better you can have the body of evidence to support the justification of your upsell, the easier it will be for them to understand the value of it. But if you don't have the evidence, if you don't collect enough of the evidence, you don't stay curious enough, you don't ask more questions, it's going to be harder for you to upsell. So my challenge to those who may think this way or may run into this scenario is, my first challenge is ask more questions. Stay curious longer. And the only way you can get good at that is by practicing, right? Next challenge to you is, look at your next upcoming sales conversation, potential customer conversation, right? That wants to hire you for your services. And what kind of planning are you doing? Have you literally gone in your calendar and taken 15 minutes or 30 minutes to just pre-plan that call? And in that, write a list. What is it that I need to know? What do I already know? And what don't I know that I need to know? Not just facts, right? Because I think in this world, we tend to feel comfortable with just the facts, right? Like, how many accounts do you have? And do you have credit cards? And how many bank statements? And how many transactions? Those are just factual. That's fact finding. Let's talk about open-ended questions you can ask about what led them to speak to you. Like, just out of curiosity, why did you choose to, why did you feel like, I would be the best person to help you? And gain that context. Oh, I found you on Instagram. I found you on the internet. And just out of curiosity, why do you feel like right now is the right time to engage in these services? You see, if you stay curious enough and you gain that context, it just makes it so much easier for you to then recommend what's best for the client. So I'll pause there because I know that I blacked out a little bit just going into
you were in
presentation
the zone,
mode.
Yeah, so we're going to take one last question. I do want to add one more thing. One of the messages that I got here is what if I don't know how to be curious? By the way, that's a really interesting question. What if I don't know how to be curious? And I understand where you're coming from. Okay, I've been doing this for almost 20 years. When my client explains to me their problem, by the 7th word, I don't need to hear the other 100 words. I know exactly what the problem is. I know what the root cause is. I know how to fix it. I know where to find the solution. I get it. I 100% get it. That it's hard to be curious when every single problem looks exactly the same, and it almost feels like a dog and pony show and a dance to go through these conversations because I know how to solve the problem. And that's one approach. You can just go out there and just solve problems. But if you only solve the self-diagnosed problems, you never get to the price, okay? A reconciled bank account, that's not the price. A P&L on a balance sheet, that's not the price. The tax return, that's ironclad proof that if it gets audited, will have no change. That is not the price. The price is getting the customer to where they want to be, but subconsciously. Okay. Almost no client walks into your office and says, can you help me retire a millionaire? They never do that. Okay. But they want that. And there's no way to get to that subconscious price that they want unless you ask questions that go deeper and deeper and deeper. And let's assume that you are a person that doesn't know how to be curious, quote unquote. All you have to do is start your statement or your question with intentionality. You start with just curious and then ask the question. Or out of curiosity, ask the question. You will see that starting by saying, I'm curious, or starting with out of curiosity, reshapes you. There's something about like the words coming out of your mouth that change you, even if it's temporarily change you. And the nice thing about it is when you ask a question and you start with being naive or curious, no one can ever think that you come with an agenda. And when you answer, and when you go straight to solution mode, because everything that they're saying, it's sounds like something you've done before, and you go straight to the answer, which you think is what people want. Most of us think that what people want is for us to give them answers. And yes, in the short term, that's what they want. And when they think about mitigating the price, they just want to get the quick answer so they can, get done with the call quicker or whatever. But the reality is that we got to focus on that price. And when we say, I'm curious, I'm curious, there's no way your customer will accuse you of being an agenda, which is in direct contrast to when you don't say, I'm curious, you say, I have the answer to that. I have the answer to that. I have the answer to that. When you come in spitting answers, you came with an agenda. Your agenda is, I'm prepared to answer the questions I already know the answers to. That's your agenda. Subconsciously, your customers will see you as, I only can prepare to answer the questions I know the answers to. And your clients want a deeper relationship. They want a deeper type of conversation. They want to know that you not only have answers, but you also have judgment. You also have discernment. You also have an opinion. You also have a point of view, because they know that business is not linear. They know that crap will hit the fan. They know that some brand new thing is going to come along. And if they see you as a person that only has the answers to the questions that they know the answers to, okay, they will only respect you for that piece of expertise. They will not see you as an advisor. They will not see you as a consultant. They will not see you as a partner to grow with them. So just changing out of curiosity to break down the concept of having an agenda completely reshapes the conversation, and it reshapes you. That's what I've learned, through my years of playing with all this stuff. So Carlos, I think we can end it.
Yeah, we can end it here. Notice when you watch your next TV series, when you watch the Olympics, when you watch the news, when you watch people speaking in the media, notice how many people say, I'm curious or just out of curiosity. It's going to blow your mind. Because when you can only influence conversations if you're going to say something. You can only influence how the person's receiving that message by leading with either vulnerability, and if you lead with and tonality, right? So the words that you choose and how you use the words that you choose. If you don't use the words just out of curiosity, then it could be misconstrued as you're judging them or you have an agenda. But when you say just out of curiosity, you're actually being vulnerable. And when you share, vulnerable is a courageous thing to do. To be vulnerable is a courageous thing to do. And when a client sees you being vulnerable, their guard goes down. Just out of curiosity, being naive and pretending. I mean, I don't say you don't pretend, but you truly want to genuinely know where they're coming from. You're letting them know, I see you, I hear you. Right? Now the client doesn't feel like you're putting them in a box, that you're prejudging them, that you're treating them like a number. And all these things is a monumental change to the way you build relationships. And I just want to echo what Uyi said. I just realized that curiosity is the precursor to better relationships. Couldn't have said it better. So thanks, everyone. Hector, over to you.
That's it. Bye, everybody. Thank you very much. Again, if you haven't signed up for Reframe, do it before September 15th so you can secure block rate in the hotel. Thank you, everybody. This is the only time that we'll do this extra Q&A. Carlos and I were chatting and we're like, there's so much more we want to cover. Phil's only living in an hour. I mean, at the end of the hour. So we wanted to at least address some of these things so we can.
Thank you, Alejo, once again. We'll upload the sketch note over to you post-webinar. You'll receive an email to get access to it. We're really excited about showcasing Alejo's amazing skills. So thanks, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, guys.